Meat City, baby.
Did you participate in the recent World of Tanks console Final Four event? Did you not select Soviet as your final nation? Well, then I've got a deal for you. You need to come on down to JD's Used Tank Emporium, where we've got a special on the Vanquisher Sentinel AC-1. What is it that you're looking for in a Tier 4 premium tank? Is it a top speed of 60 kilometers an hour, and a tank that absolutely reaches that listed top speed of 60 kilometers per hour on flat terrain, and isn't slower than most Russian tank destroyers? Are you looking for a gun that's accurate and reliable at medium range distances, with the penetration that can go through most targets that you'll see in this tier? Maybe you're just looking for a tank with a hood ornament that'll really drive the ladies wild. Well, if any of that is true, then the Vanquisher Sentinel AC-1 is certainly the tank for you. And if you happen to get an MVP medal in the recent Final Four event and you weren't on the winning team, this tank can now be had for 50% off. Is it worth it? Well, that's what we're here to find out. Hello and welcome back to Meat City Gaming. JD here with another episode of Battle Bites here in World of Tanks. And yes, today we are discussing the Vanquisher Sentinel AC-1. If you were on the Soviet team in the recent Final Four event on World of Tanks console, then you received this tank for free. And if you didn't, if you got an MVP medal and were on one of the other three nations during the final event, well, then you now have the opportunity for the next couple of weeks to purchase this tank for 50% off. And what I'm going to do today is try to give you an overview of the tank and to show you if it's worth the purchase price for you. Note, I haven't mastered the tank, I haven't played a ton of games, but I've played enough to get a feel for it, and I'm not giving you my recommendations as an expert. I'm just showing you what the tank can do in certain situations so you can make an informed decision. And as you can tell from that downer of an intro, my opinions on this tank certainly aren't high, but we'll get into why that is right now. So the Vanquisher is a Tier 4 British premium medium tank. It does come with its own custom camo paint job, just like the other reward tanks we've seen. What we're going to do here very quickly is go through the statistics of the vehicle, and then I have one quick replay battle for you that kind of shows what the Vanquisher is capable of when everything goes right. You saw the clips in the intro of what this tank is like when things don't go right. So I'll kind of, give you something to contrast that to. So here we are in the garage, and we can see that the engine is located in the back compartment. It takes up about half the tank there, and the horsepower is 330. The top speed is listed as 60 kilometers per hour, but that is deceptive because the power to weight ratio is very low, 11.8. As you could see in the clip that I had, this tank does not get up to 60 kilometers per hour unless it is going downhill with a tailwind. If you're running downhill, you can get the tank up to 60, but if you're on flat terrain, forget about it. It tops out at about 40 kilometers per hour. So the speed is not great. It's just okay for a medium tank. Then we go to the gun, and it is a 2-pounder. It has a very fast reload time. 2.3 seconds is very good. You can certainly sling shells in this tank very quickly. The aim time is decent, 1.9 seconds, but as you could see in the second little clip in the intro there, if you just hold down the trigger and just fire on full auto, you don't aim fast enough to get the aiming circle all the way down. It does take a little bit longer for the aiming circle to finish than it does for the gun to cycle. So obviously you can correct that with equipment, with a rammer or a gun lane drive, I should say, or maybe certain skills in your crew. I ran a 10 skill crew on this tank, and it still wasn't quite enough. So maybe you can correct that, but otherwise you have to lay off the trigger a little bit to get full aim time and full accuracy. You can see the accuracy at 100 meters there is 0.37. So it's okay, but as you can see, it's not great. It's not reliable when you're trying to snipe, and when you're trying to hit tanks' weak spots, which you need to do, it's not very good at that either. The gun elevation and depression, 20 degrees elevation and 10 degrees depression, those are both very good, as you would expect from a British tank. Tracks 40 degrees per second in the traverse is fine. Nothing to write home about, but it's perfectly acceptable. And then the turret, 350 meter view range, we're at tier 4, so that's not terribly offensive. 44 degree per second on the turret, again, nothing great, nothing bad there either. Radio is located in the very back of the turret. And the ammunition, we can see the standard rounds have about 85, give or take, millimeters of penetration, and the damage is really, really low. You're doing about 45 per shot, and so yeah, in the clip of the game, you'll see I put in a pretty high amount for the number of penetrations, but the damage just doesn't add up. You need to be parked on somebody's rear and just sitting there for 30 seconds to accumulate any kind of appreciable damage in this tank. The shell velocity, 800 meters per second, it's fine. You don't need to lead too much, but when you've got tier 4 light tanks running around here really fast, it's not fast enough that you don't need to give aim lead. You certainly do. And the premium rounds are APCR, and the penetration value goes up pretty significantly, and you will need that upgraded penetration for a lot of the tanks that you'll meet in your battles. You can see tier 6 tanks. This tank gets regular matchmaking, not preferential. And so the tank that I saw all the time is the T1 Heavy, the tier 5 American heavy tank. If you see that thing at all from the front, you're not penetrating it with the standard rounds. And even the premiums, you've got to kind of find that weak spot for the gun port to be able to get through it. And then, of course, there's the Churchills. I think the Churchill 1 for the British and the Churchill 3 for the Soviets. When you see those tanks, which you will see, you are again going to struggle to penetrate, certainly with the regular rounds and probably with the premium rounds as well. So a quick look at the armor profile, and it's quick because there's just not a lot of armor here, folks. It's not a great situation. You can see overall 10 to 65 millimeters. So 65 is the max on this tank, and it's going to be located. There's the second best armor, and it's okay on the sloping there on those two little front plates. And there's your strongest armor at up to 65 millimeters. It's the front of the turret and the side of the turret, and then these flat boxes of armor on the front. But the problem is they're flat. So even though it's the thickest armor, you've got 31 to 50 here, but those are angled pretty well. And then you've got 51 to 70 here and not angled at all. So long story short, you can meet tier 3s if you're top tier, and yeah, they may struggle to penetrate you from the front, but anything your tier, equal, or higher, it's going to go through you, and it's not going to really struggle to do so. The last couple statistics here to clean up. The silver bonus for this tank is 26%, and that's pretty good, but the problem is you're in a tier 4 tank, so the amount of silver that you're earning is really low, and so the bonus isn't really giving you that much more silver. This is not a tank that you want to go out and purchase if you are trying to rack up silver. Go for a tier 8 medium tank or the Tiger 88 or something even in the tier 6 to 7 range is going to earn you a lot more silver, and there's certainly more capable vehicles out there that will also bring in the silver much faster than this tank will. XP bonus is 55%. Again, pretty impressive, but the tank's just not worth putting in a crew to play that many games. Again, if you don't have any other premium tank, then maybe that makes sense because you're going to get this for 50% off. And if that's the case, then it might be worth it if it's your only premium tank. But other than that, I really wouldn't recommend it. And then the maximum ammo capacity, 130 rounds. So this tank does carry a ton of ammo. It can eventually do a lot of damage, but it's going to take a long time to do it. And finally, the cost for the tank. So a tier 4 premium medium tank, if you're paying full price, if you did not get an MVP medal at all in the event, then it's 2,570 gold, and you get half off for a 1,270 price if you got an MVP medal from one of the non-Soviet nations that were in the Final Four. Again, if you played Soviet, you got this tank for free, but if you played one of the other nations and got the MVP medal, 1,270 gold, and this can be yours. So now we're going to jump into the replay. And we are here on Malinovka in a tier 5 battle, and that's usually what you'll see in this tank based on my limited experience with the tank so far. You can get a tier 4 battle and you'll do pretty well. Usually you'll get a tier 5 battle, and if you run into a tier 5, you're going to be in trouble. And if you run into a tier 6 battle, well, prepare yourself because it's going to be a bumpy ride, but it will be a quick ride because the first tier 6 tank that fires a shot or two at you, you will be gone. Now that's going to be true with almost all tier 4 tanks anyway, but there's nothing really about this tank that you can exploit to try and be useful. You're not quick enough to flank or support, you don't have view range, you're not sneaky, and yeah, you're just a run-of-the-mill tier 4 tank, and there's nothing special about it. So as you can see, I'm climbing the hill here on Malinovka, and the top speed really rears its head. All these other tanks are just flying up the hill, and yeah, even though we're listed at 60 kilometers per hour as our top speed, we're going nowhere near that. And I realize we're going uphill, but look at this. I'm at 17, 16 kilometers per hour climbing the hill. The power to weight ratio of this tank is really, really disappointing, and it drags the whole mobility characteristics of the tank way down. So we do see some enemy tanks spotted here, and we have a little opportunity, and hey, that was a nice surprise. That actually went where we aimed it, and we got a first shot in, and the second one gets a kill. So the gun is, if there's a silver lining to this tank, it's the gun, and it's not a great silver lining, but it's fairly accurate, it's fairly quick to aim, and it puts the shells out in rapid succession. So yeah, if you're shooting like I was at tier 4 tanks there, then that's not going to be too bad. But you don't want to be trading. If you're shooting at a tier 5 or a tier 6 and you're going 1 for 1 or 1 for 2, they're going to be hitting you for 100 and you're going to be hitting them for 40, and you're not going to hit all your shots, and some of yours are going to bounce and theirs aren't. So here we go. Here is going for 60 kilometers per hour. Can we hit it? We just about got there, and then we slammed the brakes on because once again we have the opportunity to put some shots into a tier 4 tank. This is the Type 95, the Japanese heavy tank at tier 4, and again the gun behaved pretty well there. Now we've got the Grilla tier 5 German artillery. One shot goes in, two goes in blind, third one looks like it just missed, and the fourth one didn't have a chance to get there before that tank was eliminated. And so now we're going to progress. Our team is doing well here, and here's one of these Churchills. It's Churchill 3, and of course we bounce, or we did some critical damage somehow there. I don't quite know what we hit. Maybe it was the gun. Switch to premium rounds to try and get some shots into the side there. But again, our team is just kind of rolling through and stomping on the enemy team pretty hard. But we're able to keep up. Like we're not sluggishly slow. We're just not fast. And again, when you're going downhill, well, then you can reach that top speed, and it's not too bad. So we fire a couple shots on the move here, not expecting these to go in. We're just trying to get into position. There are some enemy tanks up here that are not spotted. There they go. And we're just going to try and provide a little bit of vision and then get some shots in here. So we're going to aim after we've lit these guys up, and we can see a Su-76M, one of the other Soviet tank destroyers. We put a shot in there. Then there's the T-67, and yeah, see here you can see the circle's not fully aimed by the time I'm pulling the trigger, but we're trying to use the DPM here, and it's going pretty well. We got a nice number of shots in there. And we try to put one into the T-67 before we were even close to being fully aimed. It didn't work out. I think we hit the track there, and the team wraps up the victory. So that's a standard tier 4 result that you can expect from this tank. And with a premium account, you got 25,000 in terms of silver. If you weren't running a premium, that would have been a 16,000 silver game. And that's not really enough reason to purchase a tank to put that kind of silver away. Usually the reason you get a premium tank is to either train crew or to make a lot of silver quickly. In this tank, it's just not good enough at that job. So the price is really low. If you really are a tank collector, you feel bad that you missed out on this one, hey, by all means go ahead and purchase it. But for me, is it a recommendation? Well, let's put it this way.
Nope. 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 Nope.
Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.